Happy monstering, and welcome to another episode of My Singing Monsters Live, your one-stop shop for everything to do with My Singing Monsters. This is our very first work-at-home edition, and I'm very excited. I am your host, Monster Handler Matt, and you may notice that it's just me today. We're going to make it work. I do have the company, though, of some of our awesome Play Monster figures here, and I'm so excited at the opportunity to continue to connect with you guys because, of course, the monster world is, there's always stuff going on in it and always lots of stuff to discuss and take care of. So I am going to be operating the camera and all that stuff today. We've got Monster Handler Sydney in the chat. Everyone say hi, Monster Handler Sydney. And we've got lots of exciting things to talk to you about today. But one of the first things I wanted to talk to you about is that as of this week, we are on a brand new social network. We are on Instagram. We're, of course, here on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. But new this week, we also have a brand new TikTok account. And that's at My Singing Monsters, and we just posted our first this week. We've been so thrilled with the response so far that you guys have had, and we're looking forward to continuing to do some cool stuff for you. So please make sure that you go and check that out if you've got a TikTok account, and we'd love to see your duets and reactions and all sorts of stuff connected to that as well. The other exciting thing, of course, that happens on every episode of My Singing Monsters Live, regardless of whether or not it's a work-from-home edition or not, is that we do a giveaway. We do a giveaway. And the giveaway is an exciting little thing that we do. And what do you need to do? What do you need to do to be eligible for the giveaway? Well, it's this simple. All you need to do is type in !giveaway in the chat on YouTube, and you will be eligible to win the prize. Now, what is the prize? We always zippa the lippa, and we always keep it a secret until the very end of the episode. This episode 71 of My Singing Monsters Live, so you'll have to stick around through to the end of the show today to see what it is, but if you put !giveaway in the chat, you will be eligible to check it out. So that's the exciting bit of business there right at the beginning. Let's launch right into it. It's been an exciting week, but let's first of all let's go back. Let's go back in time and let's see what happened on this day in My Singing Monsters history. Just 1 year ago today in 2019, the epic Cybop was released for the very first time. And this, of course, is sort of a Masters of the of the Monster World sort of inspired epic. Lots of allusions to that in its auto names and its nicknames and in its appearance. But let's fast forward to the exciting stuff that's happening this week in My Singing Monsters. For the very first time, a weirdo was sighted on Water Island. That is, of course, the Magpie. The Magpie, on its second appearance, of course, previously singing a duet with Talker on Cold Island. Now it is the lone weirdo added to Water Island. We've been getting a lot of awesome feedback from the community about Magpie's lyrical contributions to Water Island, but you know, it's still sort of lonely, only one weirdo at a time. But you know, hopefully Magpie will just be able to make it work. What else do we have going on this week in My Singing Monsters? We also have, starting a little over an hour ago, our Green Thumb sale, in which all plant element epics are available to buy or breed on all the islands that they appear on. That is, of course, all the natural islands, and the sole exception, and there it is right in the front, definitely taking up a lot of real estate there, is Epic Dandy Doo, also available to buy or breed on Fire Haven. In addition to that, we've got 50% off Water Island and Mirror Water Island this weekend only. If you don't have either of these islands, now may be an opportune time to pick them up, because who knows what might be coming very, very soon. And finally, in My Singing Monsters, we've got monster-sized diamond discounts on the treasure chest, the card of diamonds, and the diamond dumpster. Hopping over to Dawn of Fire, the plant-based theme continues. We've got the quad element plant hybrids available for 50% off in the Outer Islands shops. That's 9 distinct monster species to collect to buy in the Outer Islands shops, and 10 in total because of course Shellbeat available on 2 of the Outer Islands. If you know which 2 Outer Islands that Shellbeat, the adult Shellbeat is available on in My Singing Monsters Dawn of Fire, please sound off in the chat and let me know. You may be wondering, why are we doing all of this plant stuff this week? Well, you know, it was St. Patrick's Day on Tuesday, and it was the vernal equinox yesterday, so there's lots of great reasons to do this plant sort of based stuff now. And finally, in Dawn of Fire, you can get 25% more in diamond packs, with the exception of 50% more in the featured Handful of Diamonds pack. I've always wondered about those sculptures, the packs in Dawn of Fire. Are they just some artwork? Are they inspired by even precursor monsters that came before the Singing Monsters? Perhaps we'll never know. Perhaps some archaeological discovery in the future will help this information come to light. But you know what? I do have some information that I am interested in sharing with you right now, and that is in a section of the program that we like to call Quick Questions with Monster Handler Matt. That's me. So, usually on the program, we've got the host, well, there's 2 hosts normally, right? There's usually me, and then there's usually another monster handler who usually sits somewhere around here. Right now, I just have the Play Monster toys. Nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the questions and answer them. Oh, I'll be pulling double duty today. So here are some of the questions that the community has sent in this week. Jonah L. Smitty writes, how many suns and moons are in the monster world's sky? An excellent question, Jonah. It certainly depends on which island you're on, and you may be thinking, well, how does that work, Monster Handler Matt? Well, I'll tell you. In the main dimension of the monster world, there is a sun and a moon, just like in the human world. However, for those islands that exist on the seam, that sort of interdimensional boundary between the human world and the monster world, islands like Tribal Island, like Sugarbush Island, you may notice that there are 2 moons in the sky on Sugarbush Island. Now, that is because both moons from the human world and from the monster world are visible in the night sky because it's on that sort of middle ground. So, 1 sun, 1 moon normally, but on the seam, some of those celestial objects in the skies can sometimes be duplicated because of sitting between the 2. All right, next up from Starburst Clown, what does Magpie mean when it says, I'll make it somehow and go with the flow like water? Is the monster getting used to change? Well, certainly this is a departure from the habitat conditions that Magpie is used to. Previously, only available on Cold Island, and looking at the stars and the big black ink, and now going with the flow and making it somehow. I think that Magpie generally is just sort of inspired by the idea that no matter what sort of conflict or obstacle may be in our path, that we can all come together and make it work somehow. We have the resources, we've got the willpower, we've got the good attitude to make it happen. And I think it's also perhaps a reflection of Magpie's feelings about the element of water, that it is shifting, that it is versatile, and that we can sort of adapt and make it work as well. Next up from the Phoenix Kev, can weirdos that haven't eaten any relics actually speak? Do they speak in monster language before eating them, or could they always speak English, or do they simply just get inspiration for their lyrics by eating them? A sort of a multi-part question here, Phoenix Kev. So a couple of points of clarification for you. It's still sort of unknown. There may be sort of a language filter thing going on here. Are the wordos specifically singing in English, or has it just been sort of translated into English so that we can understand the lyrics that the monsters are singing? Still sort of unclear. So at any given time, a wordo can speak, and it can speak in any language that it wants to. The way that the consumption of relics work is that that's what gives them the lyrical inspiration to write the lyrics that they want to sing on the island. So it's sort of like how you might be drained, you might be low on energy, and then you have a great snack. You have a good healthy snack like a big salad, for example, and that gives you the fortitude, the constitution to be prepared to go and do that thing that you need to be doing, whether that's homework, chores, whatever it is that you need to do. It's that same sort of angle. So Wordos take sort of lyrical inspiration from the relics that they consume. Next up from Woo-Hoos, is there a middle phase for how monsters grow up, like young to adolescence, then to adults, and is there an elderly stage as well? So far as we know, Woo-Hoos, there's only really 3 phases of a standard singing monster's life, and in some cases even less than that. I'm describing, of course, the first stage is that it begins as the egg, that sort of spore-like object that is that comes out of the breeding structure, or that is otherwise incubated in the nursery, and then it becomes a young monster and then matures to an adult monster. The exception to this, of course, are monsters like Wublins, who don't begin life as an egg, but instead as a statue, and then they just sort of are there. They don't have any sort of growing up stage, they just sort of are. And the other exception to that rule, perhaps, is Celestials. I would call them, as they appear in Dawn of Fire, perhaps as elder forms. They're sort of one step further than adults because they're so possessed of power and elemental ability and stuff like that. Explorer Monster asks, in lore, can a piece of land exist without a colossal spirit inhabiting it? Why, yes, it can. That certainly was the case for the continent back during the era of Dawn of Fire. At that point, the colossals were just sort of overseers, these spirits of creation who had created the monster world, but then were just sort of hanging back, making sure that everything was all right. And only when they sort of imbued their life force into the splintering pieces of the continent during the great the fall of fire, as I've heard some members of the community refer to it, only when that happened did they imbue their life force into those pieces. As an example, none of the outer islands during the era of Dawn of Fire are imbued with a colossal spirit, and the Titans are not colossals. They are sort of their own thing, and they sort of run a fine line between, is it land, is it a creature, because the gargantuan scale of these beings is such that they almost fall into both categories. Are they things, or is it land, or is it a place, or is it a person? That sort of stuff. All sorts of gray areas there. Sasha Just Dancer asks, do the Unread family represent the 4 seasons? Autumn, winter, spring, and summer in a certain way. I had never thought about it that way, Sasha Just Dancer, but I think that that's a very astute observation. Certainly the common Entbrat, we might say, could embody perhaps both spring and summer, maybe more so summer. The rare Entbrat, very autumnal in its foliage coloration, and the fact that its horns are sort of the biggest that it had ever been. And then, of course, epic Entbrat, not a huge fan of sunlight necessarily, sort of a facsimile for winter, perhaps. A very interesting observation. I'll never look at Entbrats the same way. Very clever. Nicholas GD, do platies have a skeleton? You know, I've never asked. Platies love telling tall tales of fairy tales and different parables and fables that they've picked up, some of which they've perhaps made up themselves throughout the years. But I don't know if the body of the platy could actually support a skeleton, or if it's just sort of and don't tell platy I said this, sort of a wind bag, just sort of a big bag of the air that it needs in order to create its sound. So don't tell platy I said that. So not confident about the presence of a skeleton in the platy. Perhaps I'll try and ask next time. It's hard to get a word in edgewise there. Platy always telling stories. Dan Gonzalez, do you think the Prism Gate is able to open itself on the continent? Certainly in the in-game mechanics of Dawn of Fire, the Prism Gate only does open on the Outer Islands because that's the only place where adult monsters can be found in Dawn of Fire. But in lore, in the canon, I'm not entirely sure. Certainly the very nature of the Prism Gate itself is still sort of ambiguous, still sort of mysterious, even to us experienced monster handlers. I can see no reason, if it is just sort of an interdimensional rift to some place else, why it couldn't open on the continent, but don't expect to see that actually happening in-game anytime soon. The properties of the Prism Gate still being explored as even more prismatics are known to us as time goes on. Connor Garrett 5 asks, did the rares come from a parallel universe? No, they did not. However, rares can exist in both the main dimension and the alternate timeline that the Mirror Islands belong to. And of course, with Mirror Water Island available this weekend, now would be well, not just available, but discounted to 50% off, unlocked at level 20. Now would be a perfect opportunity to get that island and to populate it with rares when rares come around. And when a rare is coming around next, I couldn't tell you. Bah, couldn't tell you. Diamond Illuminati asks, who created Rare Wubbox? Rare Wubbox, in a way, and this is a very philosophical answer, sort of created itself, because Rare Wubbox began its existence as a common Wubbox, but then decided to strike out on its own and embark on an interdimensional voyage of self-discovery and self-actualization through time and space, and actually visited a certain time in history in the human world and picked up a couple of messages and transmissions along the way, which is why its musical part sounds so much like garbled speech, because it actually is messages that it picked up through what I understand is the wires and the cables that it actually traveled through in the human world in order to get around. Great username here. Cupcakes, Melons, and Absolute Destruction asks, why do rares on the Composer app sound different? This is a very good question because, of course, rares in My Singing Monsters make the same sound as their common counterparts, as their cousins, and that's part of the reason that helps sort of group those families together. The reason that we chose to give them new sounds in the Composer app was so that you had a more diversity of sounds that you could use in order to create excellent compositions with. So while a rare pummel might make the same sound as a common pummel in My Singing Monsters, it makes a different sound in My Singing Monsters Composer so that you have different sounds to play with, so you can get a different diversity of instruments at your disposal when you're creating your excellent compositions. Shadowy RDM asks, Toe Jammer, is it like jelly or just solid water? Toe jammers are described in their bio as having sort of a rubbery consistency. So it's not just solid water, which is sometimes called ice. It's not just solid water. It's sort of water in a state that it doesn't make any sense that it would be in. It's almost like a gel. So it's sort of like a jelly, like you proposed, Shadowy RDM, but sort of a tougher hide, not one that you could easily perforate. Although there have been instances where toe jammers lurking on the edge of riverbanks have had some of the wildlife accidentally slip in through their cuticles of their nails and then swim around inside, and toe jammers like, whoa! So it's very exciting. This is the last question for quick questions today, and it is asked by Ekbeans, another great username. Ekbeans, was the Firehaven Island made by the other monsters, or did it be created by other means? An excellent question, because of course Fire Oasis was created by the monsters to be a home for the fire elementals on the surface of the monster world, but Firehaven, no, was not created by the monsters. It was used by them, however, during the events of the dissolution of the continent, and while the colossals were imbuing their life force into the various elemental lands that later became the natural islands, fire monsters fled into the mouth of the living core, the volcano that's just sort of off the coast of the continent, and that's where they hid and took refuge during the entire span of time until the rediscovery of those fire monsters on Firehaven. So it wasn't created by the monsters, but it was used by them for a very long time. All right, those are all the questions that we had today. Now, normally at this point in the show, we have a segment called, oh, wait a minute, sorry. Someone is calling in, and I'm very interested to see who it might be. Hello? Who's that there?
Hello?
Hello? Is that... Who's on call?
First-time caller, long-time host?
Oh, yeah, you know who it is? It's Monster Handler Eric. It's Monster Handler Eric. Can everyone hear Monster Handler Eric?
I sure hope so. Hey, there I am.
So, Eric...
My video feed's coming through perfectly.
Perfect. So, correct me if I'm wrong, you're calling in just to help me with the very next part of our show?
Yeah, that's right. I'm actually calling. I've got, I've been working from home and working here. I've come up with a very exclusive offer just for you, Monster Handler.
An offer?
As you know, you're a frequent victim. I mean, a valued player of Stumped Trivia. And so today we are offering a absolutely free delivery straight to your home streaming studio of Stumped of the Week.
Well, I'm very excited to hear what sort of things you have to say, Monster Handler Eric. Can you let me know who submitted the question this week for Stump of the Week?
Well, this delivery is on behalf of Dr. Flammy Edry.
All right. So at this point, Monster Handler Eric is going to ask me a question, and I probably won't know the answer, but maybe I will. We'll see. All right. Go ahead, Monster Handler Eric.
Today's question is, how many eyes does rare Nebulob have?
How many eyes does rare Nebulob have? Okay. If I recall correctly, there is a red one, there is an orange one, there is a yellow one. I think that is... I'm gonna spitball. I'm gonna say that it has 9. I'm gonna say that it has 9.
Final answer, 9.
Was that correct? No, I was stumped.
It's 8. You were...
Oh, stumped! Dagnabbit! All right, but I was close though, right?
You were one eye off.
Okay, well, thank you very much for calling in, Monster Handler Eric. I'm sure you took great...
Thanks for hosting the show. I'm a huge fan.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, we'll talk to you later, Monster Handler Eric.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Well, that was sort of embarrassing for me, but you know what? You know what's really great? Now I don't have to be embarrassed anymore because this next segment of the show is going to be Monster Pieces. So how do Monster Pieces work? Monster Pieces work. The community sends in their artwork and using the hashtag MyStreamingMonsters, which you can see right here below on the bar along the bottom here. So you include the hashtag MyStreamingMonsters, and then it has an opportunity to be seen here on the show, and we get a chance to critique it. Now, it's just going to be my feedback today about how I feel about these monster pieces, but I guarantee that I'm going to love absolutely all of them. So let's start right in, and let's take a look at the very first one here. So, this first one here is submitted by Sleepy Scream You. Perfect username for this piece of art. This is a lovely rendition of the Wublin Poke. You can really get a sense of the long sort of serpentine neck here, and that sort of plague doctor's mask and the cool feathers. I love all the colors that have been used for this one, especially all of the highlights, done very stylistically in a very cool way. Well done, Sleepy Scream You. Next up, from Edwina 100, we have a lovely image of several different monsters here. Who do we have? We've got Dipster, and a Dipster. I think that's La. I think it's La. Correct me if I'm wrong, my Singing Monsters community. You know me and Dipsters. We've got Zint. We've got Epic Clamble. You've got Rare Bogart, and a lovely butterfly flying through the air. This is sort of a nice image because it's monsters from sort of different areas of the monster world. At least Zinth is visiting from Wublin Island and saying hi to all these other monster friends. I love it. I love the scene. Look at the smiles on those faces. It warms my heart. All right, next up from Jewel Gotirtol. I don't know if I've said that correctly, but what I do know is this is a lovely craft of toe jammer. We were just talking about sort of the rubbery consistency of toe jammer earlier in this episode, but this looks like it would be very soft to the touch. I believe this is a stitched little sort of a homemade plushie of toe jammer. Look at the detail. I love the eyes pointing in different directions. Love that. Very well done. Oh, I would like to have that for my own. Next up, from Dude Craft 4. Oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on here. But we have, oh no, we've got Kana who has fallen. Fallen and can't get up. And we've got, who do we have here? We've got Noggin and Flute Fly and Thermind and Tweedle and Mammoth and Toe Jammer and Potbelly, all sort of mourning. Is this the end of Kana that I've heard some members of the community talking about? Well, I'm happy to say that, you know what, Kana's sticking around. But this is still an excellently rendered scene, if not a morbid one. Makes me sort of sad. But still an excellent piece of art. Next up from Everton, we've got, the Gloptic. The Gloptic looks like it's ready to inflict one of its gloptical illusions on someone. And look at all those stars floating around. You know what? How could you say no? Look at that nice expression on the Gloptic. It's just like, why don't you just stare into my eye for a bit, Monster Handler Matt? And I say, well, you know what? I don't think I really could. And then next thing you know, it's a week has gone by and you have no idea what's going on. So ye be warned. Gloptical illusions, not for the faint of mind. Next up, from Floof BB. Oh, cool, calm, and clear like water. We've got an excellent rendition of the Magpie the Wordo here. A very recent monster piece because, of course, it would have been inspired by Magpie just arriving on Water Island just this past week. Very exciting. And I love the expression on that monster. Well done. Next up, from Catanator, we've got a lovely form of Tweedle flying through, and you can see a nice cloud there in the background. I love this art style, not one that we usually see, and you know what, I think Tweedle looks wonderful. You know what, originally I was looking quickly, and I was like, where are the grasping fingers of Tweedle? But there they are. The Catanator has included them. I just thought at first that perhaps they were earrings that the Tweedle was wearing. But you know what? The attention to detail on this, wonderful. Wonderful, well done. Next up, from Logan Ewer. Oh, love the art style used here on this great image of Thermind. And one of the reasons I like this version of Thermind is one, it's got sort of a lanky, almost simian monkey-like quality to it. But it's also cool to see the sort of metaphysical mouths that the Thermind can conjure in different positions. One sort of up, one sort of down. It's sort of like it's dribbling that one mouth there on the right-hand side. Ooh, love to see new interpretations of the monsters that we've come to know and love. That is awesome. Next up, submitted by Maggie, we have, a lovely geode that is preparing some sort of crystal vision to share into. Here I go again. I see the crystal vision. I keep my visions to myself, but you know what? Not this geode. This is a lovely, lovely geode. It looks sort of nervous. I hope that it's sort of engaging in some conflict resolution and presenting a possible solution that will please everyone. Next up, from Pure Kana. Oh, another great Magpie monster piece. I'm all right now. Cool, calm, clear like water. Again, love the huge sort of cartoonish eyes. It really gives Magpie a nice disposition. And you know what? You will be all right now, Magpie. It's all going to work out. That was our last monster piece for today. Weren't those wonderful? As I mentioned before, if you've created a wonderful work of art inspired by my singing monsters, please send it to us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, using the hashtag #MyStreamingMonsters that you can see right here on the bar below, and we'll scoop it up, and there's a chance that it might be seen on a future episode of My Singing Monsters Live. Okay, so we've come to that exciting time in the program where we need to select our winner of our giveaway. So while Monster Handler Sydney, who has been diligently and awesomely working the chat today and interfacing with the community in an awesome way and helping me out because I've been figuring out this setup all by myself, well, sort of stressful, but it's worth all of it when I get a chance to connect with you, the My Singing Monsters community. So the winner of today's giveaway is going to win a Magpie on Water Island. Surprise, surprise. It's usually something that is new that has come out this week. And this week is no different. And the winner of today's giveaway is Dino Man Plays Ark. Congratulations, Dino Man Plays Ark. You have won a Magpie on Water Island. So please send us your BBB ID /friend code in the chat so Monster Handler Sydney can once again scoop it up and we can use it to deliver you your Magpie. That's just about all the time that we have today on our very first work from home edition of My Singing Monsters Live. We hope that you enjoyed the show. As per usual, we are going to end out the program today with a lovely composer piece, and this one is especially timely and awesome. This one was submitted by Louis S., and this is, it's called Water, and then in brackets there's Crystal and Magpie. So again, a very recent composer piece inspired by the new music that came to us this week with Magpie's inclusion on Water Island. Thank you so much for tuning in, My Singing Monsters fans. We'll see you next week at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, just like today, for episode 72 of My Singing Monsters Live. Please enjoy this Water Crystal Magpie composer piece, and until next time, happy monstering!
Wow.